What's going on, guys? TJ here, Daily Grind Fantasy Sports, to bring you tonight's four-game NBA slate. Amanda's already staring at me. I am alongside nobody. Chips might make an appearance here soon. Matt is feeling under the weather, as you all know. He is still battling the coronavirus. I hope that my volume is working. I can't get the questions up for some reason, so I am struggling on all cylinders. But we are here. Oh, God, can you guys hear that? Okay, let's make sure you guys can hear that. All right. So, yes, four-game slate. Starts at 7:30, so I got on a little bit later than expected. I have both my phones trying to figure out why I cannot get you guys on why I can't get you guys on my Grant. No, it's not good, Grant. Don't text me while I'm streaming, Grant. You are in here. Why I can't get you guys to pull up on my phone? The questions, it's fine. All right, we'll figure it out at the end. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. We got a four-game NBA slate. We got the Pacers and we have the Hawks. We have all the injury news that we were technically pending. We got John Wall, who is probable. We are still pending PJ Tucker, who is questionable. That'll open up some minutes for some of those other guys off the bench. Daniel House would probably get the start. So that's something we do want to keep an eye on. I hope we get that while we're on stream. I just don't know if that's something we will. We got the news that Mitchell Robinson is out. And we got the news that Mike Conley is out. So nothing's really changed since the video that I made earlier. So it's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. Let's go ahead and dive right in. We have the Pacers and we have the Hawks here. It's 7:30 game. 224.5 over under right now. Pacers on the road, 1.5 point favorites. We have Houston and the Knicks, 213 over under. We have Utah and Miami at a 216 over under. And then we have the absolutely mammoth game between Brooklyn and Golden State, currently sitting at a 246 over under. So that's going to be a good game to target, guys. I'm just going to click the YouTube, make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, everybody can hear me. Perfect. All right, so it's probably going to be me going back and forth to the YouTube channel, and there's ultimately going to be like 1,000 of me on the screen because that's what happens. I don't know why every single time I stream by myself, shit goes sideways. It's because I don't have an adult present, Matt. That's why I'm growing out the beard, trying to give myself a more adult-like look, but it's not really working for me. So let's go ahead and start with this Indiana-Atlanta game. We'll go through all four. Touch base. We'll talk about some cash locks, some tournament plays. We'll go to some super draft plays if that's something you guys have been playing. We can talk about Jock Market if anybody is interested. Made some more money on Jock Market last night. We did our 30-minute sponsored stream. So if you guys were in attendance, thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to us talk some Jock Market. But let's start with tonight. We're gonna go through this pretty short and sweet. So we'll start with Indiana and Atlanta, obviously. And on the Indiana side of the ball, do I have my values? Okay, I can't show you guys that because that is for Patreon members. Boom. So we're starting with Indiana. 1.5 point favorites on the road against Atlanta. A lot of the ownership right now is going to a guy like Doug McDermott. Now, a shooting wing against Atlanta is something that Atlanta particularly struggles with here. So Doug McDermott at $4,300, showing 30 minutes on the road, is somebody that I do think you can go to as a last piece in cash. I think he's cheap. I think he's playing minutes. With no Oladipo obviously gone, no Warren and no LeVert, Dougie basically gets a 1% usage bump. He's a 0.85 fantasy point per minute, 20% usage rate. I have him pegged right now for 25.7 DraftKings points. So I do think if you're looking to Doug McDermott for cash as a last piece, I can get behind that. Again, Atlanta does struggle against shooting wings, and that's Dougie Bucket's forte there. If he can knock down some threes, I think he pays off this price tag pretty easily. I also have some interest in guys like Brogdon and Sabonis. I think I go Sabonis a little bit more here in this matchup down low with guys like Capella and John Collins over Brogdon, but I have interest there in both. Obviously, Sabonis being $1,500 more expensive than Brogdon. Sabonis with those guys off the floor, 1.1 usage boost, 1.29 fantasy point per minute, and a 26.7% usage rate. I have him pegged for 47 DraftKings points essentially, and then Brogdon, 1.5% usage bump, 1.09 fantasy points per minute, 28% usage rate, currently pegged at 37.6 DraftKings points. So, I think the ownership right now, obviously, as you guys can see, Doug McDermott is carrying the most at 4,300, and I think rightfully so, as you also can see here. In terms of value, he does rate out the best on our sheet, so I can get behind that. Miles Turner always looks good on our sheet, 5,800. I do like him, but as a tournament play, I also think you can go to one of Brogdon or Sabonis here if you want to in cash. I don't know if I'm going to. I think I might take Dougie and run, but I do think they are both viable. I lean Sabonis, but I think they're both in decent spots. All these other guys for Indiana, I don't have too much interest in. TJ McConnell's been giving them some really good minutes off the bench here at 5K. Price has come down a little bit since Utah. He's a guy that can get you 35, in a given game script where he's playing the minutes, so I don't hate him as a tournament play, especially against Atlanta. But again, my interest lies here between Dougie, Sabonis, and Malcolm Brogdon. Other side of the ball, we have, I got to get rid of this because I'm going to keep clicking on it. Other side of the ball, we have Atlanta. Home dogs, something that I can get behind. And we have a laundry list of guys that are still out. Obviously, Bogdanovich has been out. DeAndre Hunter has been out for a little bit now. And now we have Rondo and Tony Snell. Have the minutes updated with Snell being out? No. Okay, so Tony Snell only projected 20 minutes. I think that's really going to give a boost to a guy like Solomon Hill. I don't really have too much interest in him anyways. Let me make sure I have these minutes right. 36, 30, 35, 35 for Herter, 28 for Galley. 29, and then Snell, you're out, so we will see you. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. So with Atlanta, I do have some interest in Trae Young, and I think I have some interest in John Collins. A lot of people are chasing Gallinari, but I'm still a little skittish with him. So with Trae Young, 3.6% usage bump with all those guys off the floor, like I alluded to, 1.51 fantasy point per minute, 32.4% usage rate. I haven't pegged for 56.3 DraftKings points. So I do like Trae Collins. Tournament play for me, though. I won't go there in cash. I don't think any of these guys are cash viable, honestly, from Atlanta. Again, Gallinari carrying the ownership. He was let off the leash a little bit 2 games ago against Dallas. He played 30 minutes. He carried some ownership. Didn't play particularly well at 4,500. He's 4,500 here again. I don't think I'm going to chase. I mean, I guess if you want to use him as the last piece, be my guess. It's something I'm not going to be doing. He gets a 1% usage bump with DeAndre Hunter and the others off the floor. 0.8 fantasy point per minute coming off the bench. 24.2% usage rate. 3rd highest on the team, just behind Trae and then obviously John Collins, as you can see. So carrying some ownership. Again, I'm off. I don't like any of these guys for cash. I honestly think John Collins might be my favorite play here at 7,300. 3.6% usage bump, 1.08 fantasy point per minute, 24.6% usage rate. I haven't pegged for 39 DraftKings points, 39.2. So I do like John Collins here as a tournament play. I think he'd be my favorite. But again, from Atlanta, just tournament plays, no interest in cash. So let's go ahead and move on. We'll get to this Houston and Knicks game where we have a lot of injury news. On the Houston side of the ball, obviously, we're without Christian Wood, and now Oladipo is sitting on this back-to-back. Excuse me. They didn't play last night. It was 2 nights ago against Miami. Okay, I thought it wasn't a back-to-back. Sorry. So, yes, still sitting, though, nonetheless. So, we're looking at John Wall, who gets a 3.4% usage bump with those 2 guys off the floor, and Harden as well. 1.18 fantasy point per minute, 33.5% usage rate, highest on the team. I even pegged for 41.5 DraftKings points. I really like John Wall in cash. 50% owned, as you guys can also see here. So a lot of people agreeing with that take. I have a lot of interest in all these Houston guys. It's unfortunate that this is one of the lower over-unders on this slate. But even with that being said, this should be somewhat of a competitive game against the Knicks. So I still think they are targetable, especially when it comes to cash. Boogie with those guys off the floor, guy that's been burning a lot of people as of late. Against Charlotte and the Pelicans, he did carry some ownership. More so against Charlotte, he was really chalky and burnt those people. And then against Miami 2 nights ago at 7K, virtually unowned and actually went for 39 DraftKings points. So it's funny how that works. And with DFS, you go on a guy that's chalky, he busts, and then you're off him the next time, and he ultimately plays well. So 6,500 with no Mitchell Robinson down low. I do like this Boogie Cousins matchup against Nerlens Noel. Currently projected at 27 minutes. John Wall will play, so we just got not 237, TJ. My fat fingers. He gets a 1% usage bump. PJ Tucker expected to play too also. Okay. He gets a 1% usage bump with no Christian Wood, no Victor Oladipo, and obviously Harden gone. 1.37 fantasy points per minute, 25% usage rate. 37.35 DraftKings points, what we have him projected for. I do like Boogie if you're landing there in cash. I also really like Eric Gordon. 2.5% usage bump at 5,800, projected at 34 minutes. 1.03 fantasy point per minute and a 28% usage rate. 2nd highest on the team, just behind John Wall. I haven't pegged for 36 DraftKings points. Ultimately, I'm dying. Excuse me. My throat's not doing too good either, and my cough. But we fight on. So I do like Eric Gordon in terms of cash. I think you can go there. I have interest in Tate. I have interest in Daniel House coming off the bench, currently projected at 30 minutes, 1.1 usage bump, 0.85 fantasy point per minute, 16% usage rate. I think one of these 2 guys between Tate and House is going to have a really big game. So I think, honestly, all those guys and John Wall, Boogie, Eric Gordon, and Daniel House are all cash viable. We see a guy like Sterling Brown in the mix here at 3,700 carrying some ownership. I'm going to get off of him, or I'm not going to play him. Nawaba also interesting a little bit, 2.1% usage bump, 0.8 fantasy point per minute. So I think between House, Brown, and Nawab, I think one of them is going to have a big game. I lean House personally with those cheap Houston guys. So I honestly might be playing 2 to 3 in cash, which kind of scares me. But again, this is the team that has the most significant guys being out in terms of usage. So this is a team that I do want to target. I think there's a lot of guys that are viable for cash here in Houston. Other side of the ball with the Knicks, there's excuse me, there's one obvious play. It's going to be Nerlens Noel, carrying 46% ownership in tournaments right now on Roto. Probably going to be like 70 to 80% owned in cash, anywhere from like 60 to 80, I would say. We're looking at a guy with no Mitchell Robinson on the floor, projected at 3,927 minutes, 0.91 fantasy point per minute, getting the start at the 5. Currently, I have him as a 6.3 value, 24.6 DraftKings points. So I do like Nerlens Noel at 3,900 starting for the New York Knicks tonight. I think he's cash viable. I also have interest in Julius Randle. Now, if he's only going to be showing 16% ownership, this is the first time we've seen him below 9K since, I think, Golden State. Yes, about a month, 4 weeks ago. January 21st against Golden State was the last time we saw Julius Randle below the price tag of 9K. And this is a game where we have no Mitchell Robinson. So I do like Julius Randle here. I think you can go there in cash as the last piece, honestly, only carrying 16% ownership. So might be a little bit on the lower owned side. But I do like him at 8,700. I think that's a little too cheap, and especially with no Mitchell Robinson there. As you can see, he rates out to a pretty good value. 48 DraftKings points, what I have him projected for. 1.35 fantasy point per minute with no Mitchell Robinson on the floor. And again, if this game's competitive and he plays 40 minutes, something he can do, I would have him pegged for 53.35 DraftKings points. So I think that's a viable option there with Julius Randle. So Julius Randle and Nerlens Noel are the two guys I'm looking at. I do like Emmanuel quickly at 4,400, but you know the arrival of Derrick Rose is going to probably make his price tag continue to drop. But I do think you can go there. He's going to be a tournament play for me. Again, somebody that looks pretty decent on the sheet. But my plays here are going to be Noel. He's going to be a cash lock. And then Julius Randle, I also have some interest in. Moving on to this absolutely mammoth game in Brooklyn and Golden State. Excuse me. This over-under is absolutely absurd. This is probably going to be no defense here. We have KD back, and we have no DeAndre Jordan. So when we're looking at DeAndre Jordan off the floor, obviously no LeVert, no Jarrett Allen here. We have Harden in the mix now. Harden at 10-4, 37 minutes projected for. He gets a little bit of a usage bump, almost 1%, 1.57 fantasy points per minute. The lowest usage out of the three studs in him, KD, and Kyrie, currently showing 26.2% usage. I have him as a 5.63 value, 58.55 DraftKings points. So I do think he's tournament viable. I'm not going to go there in cash. KD is going to be the guy that I am looking at 9,600. Doesn't necessarily pop on the sheet in terms to Harden, but just the eye test, him being 9,600 coming back from the COVID protocols in a matchup where they don't really have anybody to cover him. I would assume he draws like Wiggins or Draymond. Like neither of those guys can cover KD here. So at 9,600, I think he is far too cheap. I do like him in this massive over-under against Golden State. We should see a pretty competitive game right now. Brooklyn are 3-point road favorites, so I have some interest here in Harden, KD, and Kyrie. KD for cash, Kyrie, and Harden for tournaments. That's kind of where my thought process is. I would have some interest in Jeff Green if he wasn't 5,500. I think he's going to play a lot of minutes, and I also think that this game could run with some smaller lineups, seeing as Golden State is without Looney and Wiseman, and they've been running Draymond at the 5. I think you could see, obviously, Jeff Green play a majority of his time at the 5, and then KD gets some run at the 5 as well. So we could see some, like I said, some smaller type lineups here. But my interest really is in Harden, KD, and Kyrie. I'll take stabs on Joe Harris, spot shooters in games like this, catch and shoot guys that can get open looks and high over-unders is something that I do like to target. So I will have some interest in Joe Harris. I would love to take chances on TLC. I'm just a little bullish on his minutes, so I think my interest really lies here on the 4 studs, and then potentially Jeff Green as well. So the guys that are going to play north of 30 minutes is where I'm interested in here for Brooklyn. Bruce Brown potentially, but again, probably staying here with these 5 guys. KD for cash, and then Harden and Kyrie, obviously, for tournaments, are the guys that I do want to target. And on the other side of the ball with Golden State, I think we have a lot more cash-viable options because of their price tags. Steph Curry, with no Looney and with no Wiseman. Sorry, we're getting Sunday. We don't need Sunday stuff. 1.56 fantasy point per minute for Steph, 31% usage rate, 54 DraftKings points is what I have him pegged for. And again, if this game stays competitive and does shoot out, which I, obviously think that could be a really high possibility. I do like Steph at 10-1, carrying some ownership too. I think he's cash viable. Draymond Green looks really good with no Looney and no Wiseman. 1.07 fantasy point per minute. Not worried about his usage rate because he does it all. 37.6 DraftKings points, 6,700. Think he's cash viable. I would go Oubre next. 2.5% usage bump, 1 fantasy point per minute, almost a 25% usage rate, 34.85 DraftKings points. Looks pretty good on the sheet. And then Wiggins would be my 4th favorite play. So again, like Brooklyn and the studs, I have interest here for Golden State and Steph, Draymond, Wiggins, and Oubre. And in that order, it would probably be Steph. I'd probably say Steph, Oubre, Draymond, Wiggins would be the order in which I have interest for these guys. You can go JTA, but I don't really have too much interest. Damian Lee as a punt tournament play, I am interested in a little bit. But again, my interest here relies on these 4 studs. I think this game's going to be an absolute shootout. In last game, guys, Miami and Utah. They continue to disrespect Jimmy Butler's price tag. I don't understand it. He was $7,300 against Sacramento the first game that he came back after missing, a month or whatever it was. It was, just a little bit under a month. He hasn't been higher than 8,400, but continues to hit value. Did it against Houston, obviously the Knicks, and then, you can see all the fantasy points right here, guys, on the far right. It's hit value every single game. So again, in this matchup against Utah, against 2 teams that are in the bottom third in terms of pace, I still do like Jimmy Butler. I think he's cash viable. He's not really showing the ownership anymore, but I do like him at 8,300. Again, a little bit of a tougher matchup here against Utah on the road, but I still think Jimmy can get you value at 8,300. He's a 1.34 fantasy point per minute with no Avery Bradley and with no Goran Dragic. 27% usage rate, 5.65 value is what I have him pegged for. 46.9 DraftKings points, so I do really like him, and my second favorite play is going to be Bam. Going up against Gobert down low. I'm going to need his size, so I do like Bam here. 1.24 fantasy point per minute, 26% usage rate, 43.66 DraftKings points, so I think that's where my interest lies, are going to be those studs in Bam and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler being my favorite play here. I kind of want to take a chance on Kendrick Nunn at 5,900. We will have Tyler Hero back tonight. Something tells me he's going to have a big game, honestly. Sub 6K. Him and Duncan Robinson, I kind of have a weird feeling that one of them is going to have a really big game. So I'll take some stabs there in tournaments, but I do think you can go Jimmy and cash if you want to. I wouldn't go anybody else there in Miami. And then Utah, a lot of cash options here with no Mike Conley. I want to pull up, oh, you know what I wanted to do? We'll go back to the next. I want to pull up the popcorn machine against Milwaukee. This is kind of what we're looking at in the rotation that we have been seeing with no Mike Conley. Ingles playing 30 minutes, Bogdy playing 35, Mitchell playing upwards of 38-ish. We have Royce O'Neal playing around 35 to 36, Gobert playing 35 in a competitive game, and then Clarkson playing anywhere from 30 to 32 in a competitive game. So with that being said, I do think there's a lot of cash options here for Utah. And again, this is the lowest over-under that we do have, or it's this game and then the Houston and the Knicks game. And it kind of stinks because that's where the injuries are. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. And then, you obviously have the sore thumb in Brooklyn and Golden State. And it's like, where do you go, right? So in terms of cash here, I really liked Donovan Mitchell against Milwaukee last night. At 8,200, playing 37 minutes in a competitive game, he still got you value at 82, got you 45 DraftKings points. So he did hit value. And he was 6 of 20 and 1 of 9 from 3. So he hits 2 more threes or a couple more of those 2-pointers. He was 5 of 11. He gets you 50-plus DraftKings points, and he finishes fire. So I do like Donovan Mitchell again here against Miami at 8,100. Again, tougher matchup. Might be a little bit slower pace than we did see against Milwaukee last night. But even still, I do think you can go to Donovan Mitchell. He is a 1.23 fantasy point per minute with no Conley, 32% usage rate, 44.4 DraftKings points is what I have him pegged for. I really like Gobert at 7,100. He's carrying a lot of ownership, and rightfully so. He looks fantastic on the sheet. 1.8% usage bump with no Conley, 1.35 fantasy point per minute, 20% usage rate. Don't care about his usage because he is big down low. I just want offensive rebound putbacks when it comes to Gobert. So I do like Gobert. 44 DraftKings points is what I have him projected for. A lot of interest in Ingles and Jordan Clarkson. I think Jordan Clarkson's going to be really cash viable here, showing 40% ownership too in tournaments. So I think he's going to be one of the chalkier guys. He was 5,700 last night against the Bucks. Gets a $300 price decrease after absolutely smashing value at 5,700. Went for 40 DraftKings points in a very efficient game against the Bucks off the bench. So I do love him. 1.05 fantasy point per minute with no Conley on the floor. I do think he's cash viable. I also think you can go to Ingles too, but my interest mostly relies in Jordan Clarkson, Donovan Mitchell, and Gobert. I want to say I like Donovan Mitchell more than Jordan Clarkson, but the price discrepancy is just absolutely crazy, and I said it last night, and I don't want to be wrong again. So I think Clarkson is a safer cash option. So that is the slate in its entirety. I'm going to check the YouTube and see what anybody is saying. I'm going to cough real quick, too. Oh, God. Okay, 167 of you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for dealing with me in my nasally voice because I am still a little sick. I don't know if I got tested for COVID and tested negative, but I've been sick for like 3 weeks. Why can't I get this on my phone, man? Can somebody send me the link? So, oh, you know what? Guys, bear with me for 1 second. Hold on. This is going to be awesome. Hold on. This is going to be awesome. It's going to work, isn't it? I did it. I did it. Oh, I'm so good. Okay, so I got you guys on my phone now. Perfect. So I don't have to go back to the YouTube. Okay, so that's basically the slate in its entirety. I think for cash, so if we look at ownership and we look at the sheet, cross-reference, right? Oh, Nerlens Noel, that's who I did want to touch base on. So when Mitchell Robinson left the game against Washington, we can see obviously Nerlens Noel started that second half. He played the whole entire third quarter, didn't come back in the game, and that was because they were eventually blowing out the Wizards early in the middle of that fourth quarter. And you can tell that because Julius Randle only came back in for 2.5 minutes. So got a little bit of a rest here. So on the back-to-back, I'm not too worried about it because a lot of these studs and starters, so Noel, Reggie Bullock, Julius Randle, Alfred Payton, and RJ Barrett didn't really play in the fourth quarter because they weren't really needed. So, yes, I do like Nerlens Noel here. He will be starting. I do think he is cash viable. So when we're looking at the ownerships here, we got John Wall, Nerlens Noel. Oh, God. Man. We got John Wall. We got Nerlens Noel, we have Jordan Clarkson, and we have Doug McDermott currently showing the 4 highest owned players on the slate. Eric Gordon right there, as is Rudy Gobert. We see Draymond Green. We see Daniel House. We see Donovan Mitchell. We see Steph Curry. I really think all those guys that I just mentioned are cash viable. And when we're looking at the sheet, we have Doug McDermott showing well. We have Trey and Capella, not too interested in cash. We have John Wall showing well. We have Eric Gordon showing really well. We have Daniel House showing really well. Julius Randle shows well as well. We have Nerlens Noel shows very well at 6'3". We have Gobert showing really well on the sheet. We have Clarkson. So a lot of the ownership guys that are carrying ownership are relative to the sheet. So I can get behind all these guys. If I were to be giving a cash core to you guys, it would probably be Wall, Noel, and Jordan Clarkson. And then I do like Doug McDermott. I do like it's going to be those 5 guys that are high owned, honestly, as boring as that is. Like, I don't really have any crazy outliers. I think you can go Boogie, but I mean, I'm not getting too different off the beaten path here. I think you can go Boogie in cash. I think you can go Julius Randle in cash. He's not carrying too much ownership. I think he's cash viable. I think you can go Steph in cash. I think you can go Oubre in cash. I think you can go Jimmy in cash. Gobert, obviously, he's carrying ownership. So I think building around some of these high owned guys and John Wall, Nerlens Noel, and Jordan Clarkson is going to open up some pay up options here. So I think you'll be able to get to guys like Gobert, Boogie if you want to, and then honestly, if you want to get to a Donovan Mitchell, a Steph Curry, a Domantas Sabonis, KD, I think that's definitely going to be a viable option for you tonight. So that's my thoughts on cash. In terms of tournament guys on a 4-game slate, I just want to try and find some guys that are lower owned. So we're looking at a guy like Trae Young at 9,800 who does rate really well on my sheet. 3.6% usage bump like we talked about, 1.51 fantasy points per minute. This game can stay competitive at home against Indiana, like at 6% ownership. I'm going to take chances on a guy like Trae Young. Kyrie Irving, 11% in this absolutely massive over-under. I will have interest there. Julius Randle talked about if him and Jimmy Butler are both going to be less than 20% owned, sign me up for tournaments. I'll be overweight on both of those guys. Who else? Capella, you can take chances on. I'd rather go to John Collins. That's just my preference. Kevin Herter, I mean, he's been playing very well for Atlanta as of late, except for that game against the Spurs. Then that was last night, so don't worry about that. Don't box score. I do like Kevin Herter as a tournament play. Don't box score watch. I do like R.J. Barrett. I think he is a good tournament option. I mentioned Kendrick Nunn. I think one of him or Duncan Robinson has a big game. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. So if we're looking at the ownership here, like Trae Young sandwiched in between KD and Steph, who are both going to be north of around probably 30% in cash. So in tournaments, around 25%, like take a chance on a guy like Trae Young. If he outscores both KD and Steph, like that ultimately puts you in a way better spot than guys that roster those chalky players, especially if Steph or KD bust. You have the leverage there, especially with the guy that's going to carry some lower ownership. So that's my thoughts for tournaments. Let's get to some questions and see what we got here. I do have to go to the Discord first, so excuse me. Discord always gets priority. And guys, for those of you who are not signed up, if it interests you, $20, link is below, Discord, gets you access to all of our Patreon, get you access to all of our cheat sheets for every single sport. Matt banged out today NBA, CSGO, League of Legends, NASCAR, I think badminton, there was volleyball, soccer, foosball, darts, like everything. The guy was doing everything today. That's why I gave him tonight off. But no, in all seriousness, basically every single sport that Draftkings covers right now, besides NHL, which is something we are working on. We put out cheat sheets for. So get you our leverage sheets, all of our best plays. They're all on that cheat sheet. It also gets you an invite to Discord, which is legitimately just everybody talking DFS in every specific channel that we have. We have our NBA Top Shots in there. We have our stock channel, our prize picks, our super draft, everything. So if that's something that interests you, the link is below. Go ahead and sign up, and we can get you started over there. And feel free to @ me or Matt if you have any questions. So let's go ahead and get to the Discord because that always has priority, and we're going to see if we have any questions here. LMAC, how's this for a FanDuel GPP? Large and possible mid. Kyrie, Trey, Jordan Clarkson, Eric Gordon, Ingles, Durant, Jeff Green, Nerlens Noel, Boogie Cousins. I like that, LMAC. Here's the line I'm using for FanDuel. Kyrie, Brogdon, Wiggins, Herter, Oubre, Ingles, Randall, Noel, Cousins. Thoughts? Neighbors, if that's for cash, I'd rather use that type of lineup for tournaments. Wiggins or Oubre straight up. I'm going to say Oubre. Cash, Wall, Clarkson, Dougie Buckets, Tate, KD, Gordon, Sabonis, Noel. I like that, Shane. A little bullish on Tate. I think it's going to be him or House, but I don't think you're far off there. I do think he actually, you know what? What is Tate's ownership right now? I think he's the lowest out of all those guys. Yeah, his ownership's a little bit too low. I like Daniel House a little bit more if there's somebody else you want to try and pivot off of. And, sheet-wise, we're looking at a guy in Tate that does rate out decently well, 0.88 fantasy point per minute. So I don't hate it, but I just think if he has a dud, then you might be a little bit behind the 8 ball there. Trent. It's got Wall, Clarkson, Sterling Brown, McDermott, Noel, Steph, Randall, Draymond. I don't hate it. Just Sterling Brown is a guy that I'm not too high on. But, again, a cheap guy, 3,700, projected mid-20 minutes. He might be able to get you value, but I am off of Sterling Brown. House and Draymond or JTA and Hero? Definitely House and Draymond. Ingles or Harris or McDermott? Give me Dougie Buckets and cash. I still want – or House. I want Doug McDermott. Atlanta struggles against wing shooters. So that's it in the Discord. So let's go ahead and hit some of these YouTube questions for you guys. Don't mind me. You're going to see the top of my head. Notification gang. I'm glad you guys got the notifications tonight. That's good. Let's cash. Yes, love you guys. No music for me, guys. I'm more of just a, silence guy. Amanda just loves to sit in silence, so it kind of turned me onto it a little bit. I love just sitting there in silence. Okay, she said no. She's watching her TV show. I don't hate music. I'm just not very good at doing the Streamlabs stuff. So, Chips, what are my thoughts on Noel? Corey, he's going to be a cash lock. Sargon, thank you, man. One must-have, no-brainer for Super Draft tonight. Yeah, guys, so I do have some Super Draft plays on here. I really like Trae Young. Draymond Green at a 1.6 multiplier. Really do like him. Kyrie Irving tonight in that game against Golden State at a 1.15 multiplier. I like him. I like Jimmy Butler at a 1.3 multiplier. And then I have John Wall at a 1.45 multiplier. So I gave you a little bit of tease of what we do have to offer here with our Discord, our new tab for Super Draft that we do offer with our NBA sheet. That is what I have those 5 guys projected at in terms of points for Super Draft. So I do like all 5 of these guys here that you can see. House and Gordon, same lineup. I think you can do that for cash. Steph or Trey. Give me Steph in cash. Give me Trey in tournaments. I'm playing Noel tonight. I like that trap. I also will be playing him in cash. Roto has Sterling Brown projected at 6.9 value, 25.56. Maybe why he's carrying ownership. Yeah, Justin. I don't see where's House for ownership. 22% owned. Yeah, he's cheap, but I don't know. He's not for me tonight. I think he can get you value. I don't think he's gonna do anything north of 30, which would be amazing. Obviously, if he can get you 24ish, I think that's a really good play. Honestly, but I'm off of him. Randall was great last night. Yeah, Nate, and he didn't even get a run in the fourth quarter. I think he would have absolutely smashed. Noel and Cash, yes. Noel or Gibson. Noel 100%. KD and Draymond might get tossed tonight. Brian, I agree with you. Regarding TLC, don't go chasing waterfall. Justin, that's incredible. Favorite stud tournament play. Showtime. I think it's going to be Trae Young, man. He's just, look at the ownership discrepancy between all these studs. Like, give me a shot here with Trae. Sterling Brown or House. I like House. For FanDuel, can you play Noel and Randall together? I think you can. Yes. Ingles or Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon for me. We got a cash trend. I just read your cash lineup. What state are you and Matt in? Matt is in Pennsylvania. I am in Massachusetts. Pick 2, Curry, Durant, and Wall. I want Durant and Wall. Randall or KD. KD and Cash, Randall in tournaments. Boogie in tournaments. Yes, Tyler, you can. We got a lineup here from Sargon. We got Clarkson, Brogdon, Dougie, KD, Noel, Wall, Butler, and Sterling Brown for single entry GPPs. Okay, I like that for GPPs. KD or Sabonis, give me KD. That over-under is just absolutely monstrous. So I'll take KD there. TJ, you're a beast. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that, man. Lamb or Clarkson for tournaments. Clarkson. McDermott or Duncan Robinson. Dougie buckets for cash. If you want to go Duncan in tournaments and get different and get off the guy that's carrying ownership, I can get behind that. Carlos, we got a cash lineup here. We got Mitchell, Gordon, Butler, Sabonis, Noel, Clarkson, House, McDermott for cash. I like that. I can get behind that. Sterling Brown or House. I lean House, but Sterling Brown's carrying some ownership too. But again, I trust my sheet, so I'm going House there. We got a cash lineup from Cameron. We got Clarkson, Ingles, Jimmy, Doug McDermott, Rudy Gobert, Wiggins, Randall, and Noel. It's a little contrarian, but I don't hate it. I'd probably play that in a tournament. I don't know if it's, it is a little bit contrarian. Cash plays from Brooklyn and Warriors honestly be legendary. I want the studs in those games. As soft as that is, I want KD, and I probably would want Steph if I can. I would say Kelly Oubre would be my second favorite play there for Golden State. He rates out second best on the sheet as well. Is Wiggins viable for cash, or would you rather go Gordon? I'd rather go Eric Gordon, Shane. Draymond and Mitchell or Gordon and Sabonis? Gordon and Sabonis for me, Thugga. Steph, Clarkson, House, Durant, Noel, Bullock, Oubre, Cousins. Might change Bullock to Lee. I don't like that last piece, Bill, honestly, between Bullock and Lee. Trying to think of what else we could do here, Bill. So you got Steph, Clarkson, House, Durant, Noel, Bullock, Oubre, Cousins. I don't hate it, man. And no Mitchell Robinson does give a little bit of a usage bump here to Bullock, I believe. He's cheap at 4K. Only a 0.55 fantasy point per minute with no Mitchell Robinson. Yeah, I'd stay clear of Bullock. He's probably going to go for 40 points now. Play 36 minutes because I said that. Yeah, I would look to change that last piece, Bill. I don't really have interest in Bullock. And then Lee's still a tournament play for me there. So I would try and rearrange something there. Sorry, got here late. Thoughts on Godwin? Yeah, let's see what Godwin is showing right now in terms of minutes. 12? Yeah, no interest. I know no Rondo. But yeah, I still don't have any interest there. They got Reddish, they got Trae Young, they got guys that can handle the ball there. So no interest there. If you want to take a shot in tournaments, be my guest. Jeff Green for cash, not for me, be legendary. Lance is the lineup here. Wall, Irving, Harden, and Gordon. Oh man, you're gonna throw this at me. Or Trae, Irving, Mitchell, and Clarkson in big tournaments. I go Trae, Irving, Mitchell, and Clarkson. Tate or McDermott for cash. I like McDermott. Thank you, Sargon. Appreciate it. Rose in tournaments, yeah. If you want to take a chance, go ahead. They're still quickly there, so I don't think his minutes are going to be anything too crazy. But you can take a chance on a guy like T Rose if you want. Tater House, guys. I lean House. I just lean House. He's a little bit cheaper. I think he's going to play a couple more minutes here. He rates out better on the sheet as well. He's carrying the ownership, so I think you go House and cash. Then you go Tate in tournaments. Oubre or Draymond for cash. I like Oubre. Justin's got a DK GBP. Steph, Bazemore, okay. McDermott, Randall, Noel, Clarkson, Draymond, and Gobert. You're definitely going to be different there with Bazemore. So I don't hate it. Oubre or Draymond. I just answered that. We got another lineup from B Legendary. We got Wall, Clarkson, Dougie, Durant, Noel, Young, House. 5,600 left over for single entry GPP. Let's see what we got in the 5,600 range. I was going to say, did you say Ingles? Do you have Clarkson in there? You do. I don't hate Jeff Green, but if you're running that as a tournament, that'd probably be my guy. I think I'd go Jeff Green there. I think he has some upside, but I just don't like him for cash. Why am I heavy on McDermott? He's very cheap. He's going to play minutes, and Atlanta really struggles against shooting wings. So that's kind of why my interest there relies in a guy like Doug McDermott. Rates out very well in the sheet. I have him currently rated as the best value here for Indiana. KD and Gordon or Randall and Draymond for cash. I like KD and Gordon. Guys, I'm going to read one more here from Carlos, and then I'm going to have to go ahead and get off, update Patreon, and make sure we get that sheet out, and I need to get to the Patreon members. So, again, that interests you, links below. Get you access. You can come to the Discord. You can talk to me still. Wall, Gordon, Wiggins, Sabonis, Noel, Clarkson, House, Brogdon, Cash, different lineup. I like that. I like that, Carlos. Last question. Lucas, best super draft pick. I kind of want to say Trae Young. I do like Draymond, though. I would say Draymond. 1.6 multiplier in that matchup against Brooklyn. I think that could be huge. But these are my 5 favorites, if that interests you. But all right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut it there. Thank you guys so much. A little bit of a lesser outcome as to what we're used to seeing. But 150 of you in here, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate the love and support as always. So good luck tonight in this 4-game NBA slate for you Discord members. I will be jumping into our pregame lock stream here shortly. So with all that being said, guys, let's have a good night. Let's cash, and good luck. Where do I go? End stream. Love you guys.